What's good, everybody? I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect, and welcome back to the channel. Now, it's one of the best times of the year to be a basketball fan, honestly just a sports fan in general. With March Madness, everybody's filling out their bracket, everybody thinks that they're going to have a perfect bracket and everything. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not happening. But we will talk about some of the best potential NBA draft prospects, potential matchups, and also a few other things in every single region. Now, if you want to go toe-to-toe with me in my bracket, I don't have any confidence in it, but we can go ahead and see what that's like. And whoever gets first in the pool will be getting a gift card like last year. Whoever gets second and third might potentially, depending on how close it is at the end, but first for sure we'll be getting that gift card. So if you are interested, hit that link in the description. Just the ESPN Tournament Challenge. Everybody kind of plays on there at this point, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the South region, headlined by Brandon Miller, potential top 3 pick, and the number 1 overall seed, Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, like we said, Brandon Miller is the headliner prospect player of this almost entire tournament, but definitely in this South region. You guys know what he brings to the table by now. You know, there's been a whole bunch of talk about Scoop versus Brandon Miller. Yeah, I think you guys know where I kind of stand on that side of the argument, but if they have a deep run, it's going to, I have a feeling that he's going to become the number 2 consensus guy. Whether that is justified or not, you know, that's a whole other conversation, but I think that it's set up for him to have a, you know, one of those big time tournaments. We've also got Keontae George, Baylor, potential lottery pick, obviously. Noah Clowney has been playing some really good basketball lately. I think that, again, if Alabama goes deep in the tournament and he plays well, shoots the ball well from 3, I think that he could be a very easy potential top 20 guy. We've got Terquavion Smith, who, you know, could definitely improve his stock, potentially, you know, get back into that firm first round range again. Kobe Brown with Missouri has been turning some heads. I think Jalen Lawson at Furman is definitely a guy to watch. I think that he could end up, honestly, depending on how things go, you know, they've got to win that game, I guess, against Virginia in that first one. We'll talk about that in a second. But if he can get a game or two or have a really big performance in that one game, I think that he could vault himself into serious, you know, second round draft consideration, even being an older guy. You got Reese Beekman still. Adam Flagler is going to come to play. Baylor Shireman, Trey Alexander, those guys at Creighton, Arthur Kaluma. AJ Mitchell is also another guy to watch in terms of a prospect in this one that I think could really improve his stock for UC Santa Barbara. But those are some of the main guys. Obviously, the first 4 are potential first round picks. We've got Kobe Brown, Jalen Lawson, Reese Beekman kind of there on the back end of the second round into, you know, the undrafted pool, but, you know, priority guys in that aspect. And then we've got, you know, the guys on the fringe side of this. Got Demoy Hodge. You know, he's older. If he wasn't as old as he is, he's 24, he would be probably an easy second round pick in my opinion. Really good shooter from the outside, solid athlete, really good defender at the guard spot. Not giving you much in terms of creation, but I've been impressed with him. I think that he could be a real impact guy in this region, depending on, you know, how things shake out for Missouri. They've been playing some good basketball as of late. You've got guys like Tubelis, Hakeem Hart. Then we've got the future. Rylan Griffin and Jaden Bradley should be draft picks next year. Got Ante Brzovic at Charleston, College of Charleston, who is interesting. I like his versatility. Now, getting into some of these best potential matchups in the South, we've obviously got Baylor and Alabama. I think that would be a good matchup. I'm not sure Baylor has what it takes to kind of get that deep into the tournament this year. Their defense is just really shaky. I don't know if I would confidently bet on them. But if that were to happen, be Brandon Miller versus Keontae George, the other, you know, supporting pieces and the experience. Creighton versus NC State, one of the better first round matchups of the entire tournament. Got all the Creighton guys. You know, they really turn it around in the second half of the season, going up against Terquavion Smith, Jarkel Joyner. They've been playing some good basketball as of late as well. Really dynamic guards. Can definitely win you a tournament game and get you pretty far even as an 11 seeds. Arizona versus Missouri in the second round would be a great one. Baylor versus Creighton in the second round could be a great one as well. Alabama versus Virginia, the contrast in styles there. If that was to happen in the Sweet 16, we've got, you know, run and gun, shoot a bunch of threes. Virginia control the pace, slow it down, you know, play tough defense. I think that would be a dogfight if Virginia was able to get there. Now, that first round matchup against Furman is going to be one that everybody is going to be, you know, watching very closely, because I think they could be on upset watch. Then we've got Missouri versus Utah State, who I think is another really good first round matchup. If you like offense, this should be the game for you. I think that they, you know, score at least like 160 points combined in this one. Now that I say that, they'll probably end this game 53-54 or something, but both of them can really score with the best of them, and I'm curious to see how that one goes. But that's really most of the potential matchups in this region. I think Alabama is set up for success in this region. I don't see anybody who I'm really concerned with if I'm them. I think that they got a really good draw being the #1 overall seed, and just the other guys that are, or the other teams that are in this region of the bracket. But, you know, in terms of those first round matchups, I think it could go a lot of different ways. San Diego State versus Charleston, that's going to be a popular pick for the upset. I'd probably still stick with San Diego State in the #5 seed here. I just think it's a tough matchup for Charleston from what I've seen from them. Maryland, West Virginia, not a huge fan of that game, but yeah, you know, that's pretty much going to do it for the South region. Now let's get into the West, which I believe to have, and I think it's pretty obvious, the most NBA talent out of all the regions by a pretty wide margin. Obviously, you've got guys like Grady Dick, Nick Smith Jr., Anthony Black, Jordan Hawkins, Julian Strawther, Ricky Council. That's, what is that, 6 potential first round picks right there. Jalen Wilson for some people, Jordan Walsh for some others. Definitely all getting drafted if they were to declare this year. Terrence Shannon Jr., Jaime Jaquez, one of the best players in the country. Mike Miles is in there. Andre Jackson, Coleman Hawkins, Drew Timme, Dembona. Now UCLA's Jalen Clark would have been in here. Obviously, he was going to get drafted this season for, you know, the improvements he made offensively, winning Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. But he went down with an Achilles injury, unfortunately. And, you know, hopefully we just wishing him the best and speedy recovery, because he was so talented and made such great improvements this year. So, you know, speedy recovery to Jalen Clark. Some of the other fringe guys got Emmanuel Miller and Damian Ball at TCU. They're going to have a big say in, you know, TCU's run in this postseason, trying to get hot once again. Aiden Mahaney at St. Mary's, he's put on a show as a freshman in the West Coast Conference. Drew Pember and Tajon Jones at UNC Asheville. Now those guys could play upset. We'll talk about that a little bit in a second as well. But, you know, 2 big time talents. Drew Pember obviously being the more appealing guy in terms of NBA prospects, and definitely somebody to watch. I haven't watched a ton of UNC Asheville, but, you know, he's definitely a guy that I am intrigued by from what I've seen over the course of this year. And then we've got some future guys, obviously Donovan Clingan at UConn. Nolan Hickman, I still think, is going to be an eventual NBA player. Now the best potential matchups here are pretty obvious. Kansas versus Arkansas in that second round would be a great one, potentially the best of the tournament, and it kind of reminds me of what we had last year with Gonzaga and Memphis. Obviously Jalen Duren versus Chet Holmgren. Now it's not the same caliber of, you know, prospects. Those guys on my board were both top 5 or top 6, I believe, somewhere in there. So it's not exactly that, but we've got Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson, Kevin McCullough, and also some other good players like DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams. You know, the rest of those guys over there going up against Nick Smith Jr., Jordan Walsh, Anthony Black, Ricky Council. You know, you got others like Devo Davis, the Mitchells, Jalen Graham. So that would be a really good matchup to see, but obviously Arkansas would have to get past Illinois in the first round, and I think that is going to be a really good matchup as well in terms of first round. Both of those teams have been kind of inconsistent throughout the year for many different reasons, but their highs as teams have been, you know, extremely good. But that should be a dogfight in round 1. Potentially Kansas versus UConn, that could be a really competitive one. UConn getting to the Sweet 16 is definitely get their mojo back. Their competitiveness, they kind of play through their coach. And obviously you've got a lot of talent on both sides of there. Kansas versus UCLA, obviously the history of both of those programs meeting up in the Elite 8 with a chance to go to the Final Four. I mean, I think that's what a lot of college basketball fans would like to see eventually. Obviously, everybody likes the upsets, but that's something that I think could be appealing. Just taking one last look at this bracket. I know a lot of people want to pick Iona against UConn. I'm not a huge fan of that one either. As I'm saying this, all the upsets that I don't want to pick or I'm not a huge fan of are 100% happening now. I just know it. I don't think Iona can quite match up with them. I do like Boise State. I think that could be a potential one. UC Asheville, of course, going against UCLA could make it interesting. I don't think they have quite the overall talent to kind of hang with them, but Drew Pember has a big night. I think that they could definitely make that game interesting to say the least. Now heading over to the East region, we've got Cason Wallace, Kentucky. He's the best prospect in this region, potential lottery pick, of course. And then we've also got the Duke guys, Kyle Filipowski, Derek Whitehead, Derek Lively, all potential first-round picks would probably be locks for me. We've got Keontae Johnson, Kansas State, Julian Phillips, Tennessee, and then also guys like Oso Ighodaro, Marquette, Bryce Hopkins, Providence, who has a chance to kind of get some revenge on his former Kentucky squad. We've got Tyrese Proctor, who's been playing, some really good basketball this second half of the year. I think that, if he was to declare, he would be somebody who viably drafted. I don't know if that he's going to. I think that he would probably be smartest to maximize his stock and go back a year. But, he's been performing really well. Then obviously Naquan Tomlin, Kansas State, has some intriguing upside as well. And then there's a lot of fringe guys in this East region. Guys like Drew Peterson, Jacob Toppin, Boogie Ellis, Tyler Kolek, Cam Jones, Oscar Sheway, Antonio Reeves, Max Asmus, Olivier Maxence Prosper, Kendrick Davis. Like, we're going down the line. These are a lot of big-time players who have the chance to have really great tournaments and have also been, kind of on that fringe, in and out of boards and everything, mocks over the course of these last couple years. Jeremy Roach, been there before. Guys like Raekwon Battle at Montana State, Jordan Brown in Louisiana definitely have the potential to get their names out there and be sort of those Cinderellas, and they play on some of my favorite teams in terms of upsets. And definitely Raekwon Battle, I've been watching a little bit more of him, kind of getting prepared for this. He's somebody I really like his game. We'll see kind of how things shake out in terms of getting to that next level, but I definitely like what I've seen from him so far. And then we got the future guys, Mark Mitchell at Duke, Trey White at USC, Jaden Akins, Michigan State, and then Duke Thiero at Kentucky. And getting into some of those best matchups, we've got Kentucky versus Providence in that first round, like I was talking about. Bryce Hopkins versus Kentucky. This is a upset pick that I actually kind of like. I haven't been a fan of this Kentucky team all season. I think with Cason kind of being up and down in terms of coming back from injury and things like that, I think they could, really pose some problems. This is set up for Coach Calipari's demise in like the worst way. Like, honestly, if he loses here in the first round again, obviously different circumstances. They were the 2 seed last year, much better season in terms of overall performance. But if he loses here, we got a good recruiting class coming in next year. I mean, like, the pressure is going to be on for him to perform, and we start asking a whole lot of questions. That's definitely a big game, both in terms of potential NBA prospects with Hopkins, Cason Wallace, but also the kind of greater college basketball narrative that's at hand. Duke versus Oral Roberts, another one of the best first-round matchups of the entire tournament. Duke's been hot. I wish Oral Roberts would have gotten a different draw here, because I think they would be a very good upset pick as a 12 seed. One of the stronger 12 seeds that I've seen, led by Max Asmus. They got kind of ran over, who is 7'3", 7'4", can really shoot the three, and poses a lot of different issues for defenses in that way. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. The both of them have been around. They've had more experience. They're older. They've got this young Duke team who has been playing really good basketball, but at the end of the day, they are still 18, 19 years old. They haven't been in this type of environment yet, so I think this is going to be a really good one to watch. Kansas State versus Kentucky in the second round could be good. Battle of the Wildcats, Keontae Johnson, Cason Wallace, Jacob Toppin, all of them. We've got Purdue versus Duke potentially in the Sweet 16. Derek Lively in that front court going up against Zach Edey, which could be a very interesting matchup. I think Zach Edey has the potential to kind of boost his stock here and really become like a consensus draftable player. I haven't been a huge fan of his because his lack of mobility, how reliant he is on the post-ups. You watch him be in the lane for 3, 4, 5 seconds. But at the same time, we want to talk positively. He's 7'4", he's got good touch, he blocks shots, he's productive. I think that he has the pieces to be worthy once we get into those 40s and 50s of a pick. We've seen teams take chances on Taco Fall. We've seen Boban have moments in this league. I think that he is definitely worthy. I think he's more talented than those two. He's definitely younger prospect than those two. So he's definitely worth a shot, just given his skill set and everything. I think his game is going to have to change just naturally, but the talent is there. And this is a definitely good stage for him to make some things happen. And then finally, Memphis going up against FAU in the first round. Definitely going to be a super competitive game, one of the best of the first round as well. Kendrick Davis and those guys at Memphis who have been playing some really good basketball just won the American Conference Championship going up against FAU and John L. Davis, Elijah Martin, one of the more consistent teams in the country, I would say, and that should be a good one as well. And then getting into this Midwest region, we've got Jarace Walker here, potential lottery pick. Really played well in that last game against Memphis that they lost, but he has a chance to boost his stock even further if Houston is able to go on at least some version of a run. Jalen Hood-Schifino at Indiana. We've got Kobe Jones here at Xavier, Chris Murray at Iowa, Marcus Sasser. Hopefully he's able to get healthy. It sucks that he had that pulled groin in this situation, especially given that he was out last year and he was almost about to return, but then obviously they lost. So, really hoping that he's able to give him something and be out there, just given, what he's done for this program over the last 4 years. And also, he has a chance to boost his NBA draft stock in the process. Got Trace Jackson Davis been playing some really great basketball. Love watching him pass the ball, just the way that these teams doubling him, and just how his progression has looked there. Tucker DeVries at Drake. I think that he has a chance to, play a big role for a potential Cinderella in Drake going up against Miami in that first round. We've got Dylan Mitchell at Texas, Isaiah Wong at Miami as well. And we've got a good list of fringe guys in this region as well. Jordan Miller at Miami. He's kind of a sleeper. I'm not 100% sure why we haven't, given him a little bit more attention throughout the course of the season, but he's definitely a guy who I could see kind of making some waves in the process. Jalen Pickett at Penn State, playing unbelievable. I'm not a huge fan of him in terms of NBA draft prospects outside of like maybe a late round selection as an older guy, but like he goes out there and gets buckets, performs, scores inside, out, however you want it. He's been playing some really good ball, so he's definitely on the watch list. Jamal Shead at Houston. He's done some good things. He's a little sporadic at times. Definitely want Marcus Sasser, want the both of them out there, see how they complement each other, but he's got some tools. Sule Boom has been playing great basketball for Xavier this year. Him and Kobe Jones make one of the best backcourts in this entire tournament. Wade Taylor, you guys watched the SEC tournament. He was, hooping. I think Dylan Disu is definitely still worth a look. He's older at Texas, but like some of the things that I've seen from him, especially in that Kansas game, he's definitely up there. Then we've got guys like Marcus Carr, Gabe Kalsher, Nigel Pack, Sincere Carey at Kent State is definitely a guy to watch. He can definitely lead some upsets, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then we got the future guys, Terrence Arsenault, definite draft candidate next year. Malik Renew, another one. Yohan Traore, Auburn, probably won't play much, but down the line, he's definitely a guy. Tyrese Hunter hasn't had quite the season that we might have expected from him coming from Iowa State and what he did that freshman year. He's still super young. Definitely, I think he's going to get a shot in the NBA at some point. We've got Wooga Poplar of Miami as well. Probably could be in the fringe, section, but I think that he has the potential to make it happen down the line. Getting into some of the better matchups in this region, Houston versus Indiana. I think that would be a great one. Obviously, those two teams, Jalen Hood-Schifino, hopefully Marcus Sasser would be available. This is a Sweet 16 matchup going up, trying to get to the Elite Eight. Then obviously Jarace Walker versus Trace Jackson Davis, two potential NBA bigs. I think there's a lot there. I think this would be a grinded out game, really physical, and a fun one to watch. Houston versus Iowa, Jarace Walker, Chris Murray. Pretty self-explanatory there. Not a huge fan of this Iowa team, but they just have to get to the second round, beat Auburn. I think that would be a decent chance that they do that. So that's definitely a matchup that we could see. Xavier versus Texas. Now that is a really competitive one. I really want to see all those guards go up against each other. I think Texas has what it takes to make a deep run, but this Xavier team must be really tough. Miami versus Drake. Now this is one of those first round matchups that everybody's going to have their eyes on. Drake matches up pretty well with Miami. I think that they're going to need a good game from Tucker DeVries. I want to see him against a little bit more athleticism. They've got what it takes. I like this Miami team, but this should be a pretty competitive game. I'm excited to watch that one in the first round. And then obviously if we can get Houston versus Texas, Elite Eight, the whole Houston thing, Austin, Houston, potential national championship contenders, I think that would be a good one as well. Oh, and I would also watch this Kent State team versus Indiana. I know Indiana was on a lot of those in terms of the best potential matchups, just because they have Jalen Hood-Schifino, potential lottery top 20 guy, Trace Jackson Davis as well. But like I said, Sincere Carey, I think he's got what it takes to kind of play upset. Really talented guard, could end up, turning a lot of heads. in this type of setting. I do think it would be tough for them to kind of match up with Indiana's size, but other than that, I think that they, have what it takes. I like the energy that they play with defensively in terms of, scheme and everything like that. Speaking of which, we just talked about them. Kent State definitely have the potential to be a Cinderella in this one, 13 seed. If they can get past Indiana, I think that there's, the sky's the limit. They can make some things really happen, kind of ride that momentum again, at least into that second weekend. I think Louisiana is a great pick. Tennessee is in a terrible spot right now. I do not like watching them play basketball, especially with Zakai Ziegler out. I think Louisiana could very easily take advantage of that. I think I'm going to end up picking Louisiana. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm going to end up picking them as an upset. And also Furman, like we talked about earlier. We've got Jalen Sloss in there. I think that they have a really good chance to make a run. They've got Virginia in the first round, and then after that, they'll have either Charleston or San Diego State. I think that's a good matchup for them either way they go, and then they'd likely play Alabama after that. Could be a bit of a buzzsaw, but Jalen Slauson versus Brandon Miller matchup, that would be pretty fun to see. But even getting to the Sweet 16 as Furman, you gotta love that. They'll make shirts out of that and everything in between. And then also Oral Roberts. If they can get past Duke, I like them. I'm gonna pick Duke in that game, but like I said, tough draw for them. I think that they had the potential to kind of really make something happen as a low seed, but just a really, really hot Duke team right now. And then finally, my national championship pick, or the team that I am most confident in right now, I'm going with Alabama. I just don't see any other teams that I'm really confident in right now. Last year I picked Arizona. We all know how that went. Not well. I do think that this Bama team is just really tough. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but when the front court is playing the way that it is, when you're getting what you're getting from Javon Quinterly, got Jaden Bradley coming off the bench, getting paint touches, getting to the rim. Brandon Miller's playing like the best player in the country. It's really, really tough to beat them. And I also think that they are just set up really well on their side of the bracket to kind of, work through some things. Now, if they shoot the ball, they're honestly one bad shooting night away from things going a little bit in the opposite direction than you want. I do think at times some of their decision making can be a little sporadic, but you can get some good play out of JQ, Mark Sears. I think that, they're just really tough to beat, and that's why they are my title pick this year. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. I feel like we covered a lot. I know we probably missed a few things here and there, but I feel like we got to most of the things that I wanted to cover in terms of just the overall tournament, NBA draft prospects, people that could rise, fall throughout. Should be fun to watch. Definitely want to stay tuned in this entire time, this whole weekend. Definitely follow me on Twitter. I'll be posting about different games that are going on. Maybe post a clip here and there and everything like that. So definitely do that as well. But yeah, that's all I've got for this one. If you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new around here, and leave a comment down below some of your thoughts, who you have for the national championship. Let me know down below, and also maybe a prospect or two that you think might rise over this weekend in the next couple weeks. So that's all I've got for this one. As always, I'm Keandre. This is HoopIntellect. Till next time, bye bye.